If you've ever tried getting lean, then you already know this. The hardest part is not training hard, it's not knowing what foods to eat, and honestly, it's not even motivation. The real reason most men never reach 10% body fat is because nobody prepares them for what actually happens during the process. Because the truth is, getting lean messes with your energy, your hunger, your confidence, even how you see yourself in the mirror. And weirdly enough, there's a phase where you can actually look worse before you look better. Most men hit that stage, panic, and quit. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 biggest things every natural lifter needs to understand before trying to get lean. These are the exact lessons I've learned myself and applied to helping hundreds of busy men get down to 10 to 15% body fat without destroying their social life or spending hours in the gym. And make sure you stay until the end, because rule number 5 is the one that determines whether you stay lean permanently or rebuild straight back to where you started. Now, let's get into it. Rule 1 is that you will look worse before you look better. One of the biggest mindset shocks during fat loss is what happens in the first few weeks, because most people expect calories being down means you instantly look leaner. But it's not what happens. When you first enter a calorie deficit, your body starts using stored glycogen for energy. Now, glycogen is basically stored carbohydrates inside the muscles, and glycogen holds water. So when glycogen drops, you lose water weight too. And visually, you often look flatter, smaller, less pumped, sometimes even softer. This is where loads of people freak out because they think, I'm losing muscle. This isn't working. I look better before. But in reality, your body is just adapting. And this phase is temporary. Once your body stabilizes and actual body fat starts coming off consistently, that's when your physique starts tightening up properly. Your waist will come down, definition improves, and you start looking noticeably leaner week to week. But most people never get there because they quit during the awkward phase. And I've seen this with so many clients. Danny is a perfect example. Danny's got 2 kids, busy schedule, working constantly, and before coaching, he was already training 4 to 5 times a week. But despite all that effort, he still wasn't seeing results. And one of the reasons was because every time progress slowed or his body temporarily looked flatter, he assumed nothing was working. Now, he understands the process, and because of that, he stayed consistent long enough to completely change his physique, and that's the key. It's not panicking emotionally every time your body fluctuates, because fat loss is never linear, and the faster you accept that, the easier the journey becomes. Rule 2 is that recovery beats perfection. The next one is probably the biggest difference between people who get lean and people who stay stuck forever, and it's this. Your success is not determined by whether you mess up, it's determined by how fast you recover after messing up, because everyone slips up, everyone, even people in incredible shape. The difference is most people turn one bad decision into a bad week. One takeaway becomes, well, I've already ruined today, which becomes, I'll start Monday. And suddenly one meal turns into 6 days of damage being all over the place. But lean people don't think like that. They mess up and they immediately get back on track. That next meal, that next morning, that next workout, done. No drama, no guilt, no emotional spiral. My mate and client Luke came on board with the program, got himself in amazing condition, as you can see here, and he went out drinking most weekends. Now, I don't recommend that, of course, but it just shows that if you've got the right structure in place, if you do have the occasional off meal, if you do go out drinking, as long as you bounce back the next day or the next meal, you're back on track and you can see amazing results. Luke planned around social events. He stayed structured for the rest of the week, and most importantly, he got straight back on track afterwards, and that's why he still got incredible results. Perfection is overrated. Consistency always wins. And honestly, this mindset alone changes everything for busy men, because most busy men think, if I can't do it perfectly, there's no point. But that's completely wrong. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reducing the amount of time you spend off track. That's it. And if you can master that, your results improve massively. Now, rule 3 is that the last 30% feels the hardest 70%. Now, this is the stage nobody talks about enough, because getting from 25% body fat to 18% body fat was very different compared to getting from 15% down to 10%. The leaner you get, the harder your body fights back. Your metabolism adapts, your energy expenditure drops, hunger increases, recovery becomes harder, motivation drops, and suddenly the same calorie deficit that worked perfectly before barely moves the scale. This is why so many men plateau near the end. Not because they're failing, but because the final stretch requires more patience, more emotional control, more precision. This is exactly what Ryan experienced. Ryan runs a business, high stress, long days, and when he came to me, he wasn't just struggling with body fat, he was struggling with energy. He constantly felt tired, he was unmotivated and frustrated that nothing seemed to work anymore. But once we fixed structure, recovery, nutrition consistency, and realistic expectations, everything changed. Not only did he lose body fat, but his energy massively improved too. And that's important to understand because getting lean shouldn't feel like a punishment. If your entire life feels miserable during fat loss, you're probably doing it wrong. The best results come from sustainability, not extremes. And when you do understand that, you stop chasing shortcuts. But before we get into the next rule, I want you to think about this for a second. How many times have you actually quit right before results were about to happen? Honestly, most people are way closer than they think. They just stop too early. And rule 4 is usually the reason why. Every mistake is data, not failure. One of the worst things you can do during a fat loss phase is become emotional every time something goes wrong because emotions make people irrational. You miss calories one day and suddenly you think, I've ruined everything. No, you haven't. You've gathered information. That's it. And the leanest people I know are incredibly good at analyzing patterns objectively. Instead of saying, why am I failing? They ask themselves, what keeps causing this? Maybe you are under eating during the day, then binge at night. Maybe poor sleep increases cravings. Maybe stress makes you snack. Maybe weekends destroy your consistency. These patterns matter because once you identify the real problem, you can fix it. And this is where long-term transformations happen, not through motivation, through awareness. Simon is a great example of this. Simon is 49 years old, and a lot of men at that age believe it's too late for me. My metabolism's broken. I can't build muscle anymore. But Simon completely changed his physique, lost body fat, built muscle, improved his lifestyle massively, and he still goes on holiday multiple times a year whilst being in shape. Why? Because he stopped treating setbacks emotionally and started treating them strategically. That's the shift. Once you make that shift, progress becomes much more predictable. Now, rule 5 is that dieting is temporary, maintenance is the real skill. Now, this is probably the most important rule in the entire video because getting lean is not the hardest part. Staying lean is. Most people treat fat loss like, once I hit my goal, I'm done. But your body doesn't work like that because after dieting for months, your hunger is elevated. Your appetite is still high and mentally, you feel like you deserve a reward, which leads to the classic rebound. And this is why so many people regain everything, not because they lack discipline, but because nobody taught them how to transition out of a diet properly. And this is what I call the triple R approach: rip, reverse, and rebuild, which we apply to our clients on our program. So first is you get lean, then you slowly increase calories strategically, then you will rebuild strength, performance, muscle fullness, sustainability. This is how you maintain a lean physique long term, not starving forever, not endless cardio, not living like a bodybuilder year round, just structure, awareness, and a proper transition phase. And honestly, this is the biggest difference between people who stay in shape for life and people who are constantly restarting every January. So to summarize, if you want to reach 10% body fat successfully, you need to understand these 5 things. Number 1 is that you may temporarily look worse before you look better. Number 2 is that recovery speed matters more than perfection. Number 3 is that the leaner you get, the harder the process feels. Number 4 is that mistakes are feedback, not failure. And number 5 is that dieting is temporary. Maintenance is the real skill. If you can understand those 5 things, fat loss stops feeling random and starts becoming predictable. Now, if you're a busy man and you want help getting lean without sacrificing your entire life, there's a link below in my description. Watch the coaching video, and if you feel like it's the right fit for you, you can book a strategy call with me personally. And if not, no worries at all. I appreciate you watching the videos as always. And yeah, make sure you subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one.